pretty people, and welcome to the Life in Pink podcast. Oh my goodness, I can't believe those words actually just came out of my mouth. I can't believe that I'm actually starting a podcast, but I'm so excited. This is such a dream come true. So first I want to start off by saying, one, thank you for clicking on this recording, clicking on this podcast. Thank you to all of my friends and family for supporting me and doing this. I'm so excited to start this, and I can't wait to take you guys along on this journey. So some of you may know of me, or if you're my friends and family, you know me well, or some of you might have just randomly come across this podcast. I figured I should probably introduce myself. So hello, my name is Ryan Sterling. My Instagram is RY_Sterling18. My TikTok is RY_RY18. My friends usually call me Rye. That's my nickname. If you're listening to this podcast episode right now, you're now my friend, and you can also call me Rye. I figured the best place to start with this podcast, as this is kind of like our intro episode, is to, one, give you guys a little bit of background of who I am so you can get to know me a little better, but also, how did we get here? How did we start a podcast? How did this idea come to mind? How did we even get here, basically? So really quickly, a few things about me. You already know my name. My name is Ryan Sterling, or Rye. I'm currently 19 years old. At the time that I'm filming this, it's literally just less than a week before my 20th birthday. So I'll be turning 20 super soon. And the reason why I wanted to start the podcast at the start of my 20s is because I want to document life in my 20s, but we'll get into that in a second when I get into where the name of this podcast came from. But I'm currently an incoming junior at Rutgers University. Oh my goodness, where have the years gone? How am I already about to be a junior? I feel like I was a freshman 2 days ago. That's crazy. When they say college flies by, please believe them. 2 years already done, 2 years left. What is life? That's so crazy. Go to Rutgers University. I love Rutgers. If you're one of my Rutgers friends listening to this, are you rah? Love you guys so much. A few random things about me. Let's see. One, I love the color pink. That's also kind of where the name for the podcast came from, which we'll get into in a second. I love to travel. I talk about traveling all the time. If you're a close friend of mine, there's no way I haven't talked to you about traveling or planning a random trip somewhere. I love to travel. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. I love to swim. I love art. Fun fact, I was actually supposed to be a graphic design major. Now I'm a marketing major. If you're one of my business babes, love you so much too. RBS, yes. 100% totally a girly girl. I love all things girly. I love all things pink. I love all things sparkly. Y'all know me, but if you don't, that's a little bit about me. I'm Christian. I love God. I would not be here. I would not be where I am in life today if it weren't for God. I would not have had any of the experiences that I have in life if it were not for Him and His grace and His blessings. I'm so undeserving, but His love is unconditional. So I want to say also a big thank you to God for putting this on my heart to start this podcast, for giving me this vision, for also giving me the okay to do this. Oh my goodness. I'm so grateful. I don't even know. Words don't even begin to describe it. I love my family and friends more than anything. I could not ask for better people in my life, and I thank God for them every day. They're the sweetest people and the coolest people on this planet. I love giving advice. I love giving advice, and I feel so honored when people ask me for advice, because, oh my goodness, like, you want to know what I think, you trust my opinion. Like, I feel like somebody asking me for advice or asking somebody else for advice is like the biggest honor, because that means that they trust you. And so that's why I'm really excited to start this podcast, to, one, document life, also to give life advice. So now we can segue into how this even started. So basically at the end of July, and now I would always kind of talk about life, rant, just talk about anything, give advice, very unsolicited advice on my private stories on Snapchat. If you're listening to this right now and you knew me in high school and you were a part of the Life of Ryan private stories, any of the whole series, I think we got to like part 5 because the story was filled up so much that I couldn't post on there anymore. At least I couldn't save any more to that story, so I started a new one. If you were a part of that, wow, you're actually an OG. So thank you for listening to this right now. Oh my goodness, that was an era in itself. But moving aside from Snapchat, I moved more over to like my close friends list on Instagram because I was just on Instagram a lot more, and I would always just randomly like talk about random things, give advice. Like I said before, I love giving advice and I love talking about life experiences and things that I learned. So it was the last day of July, and I don't know, I felt really called, and I felt like it was really put on my heart to just talk about July, because July of 2022 was such a good month for me. I can't even really put it into words exactly why it was a good month. It just was. And I learned so much within that month, and I just felt like I should share it. I don't know why. I just felt like, why not? Let me just share it. And so I literally got on my close friend story, and I just went on like this long, not even like rant, just like this long talk about July, and then like the things I learned from July. And then once I watched it back, it was actually a 20-minute long story. Now, I didn't mean to talk for that long. I didn't intend to talk for that long. But like the more I talked, the more things just kept coming to mind, and I just kept talking and just sharing. And when I listened to it back, it actually took me 20 minutes to complete it. I was literally outside at the school that I was taking summer classes at, and I was just sitting in my car, and I recorded it. And then on the drive home, I just listened to it, and it actually took 20 minutes to finish. I did not expect anybody to actually listen to all that. I figured if somebody listens to the first part, they might listen a little bit in the middle, they might listen a little bit in the end. I didn't think anybody would actually sit all the way through it and listen to it, because that was 20 minutes. And let's be real, our attention spans are really, really, really short. I know I probably would have tapped through it. But anyways, I posted it anyways. And the feedback that I got from that, I was honestly surprised. A lot of my friends that were on that close friend story literally just reached out and said that touched them and that they really needed to hear that. And that made me feel, I couldn't even put it into words. One, because I didn't even expect people to actually listen to it. But then the fact that I actually like touched somebody, and one of my friends even said that they don't really listen to Instagram stories, they usually just tap through them, but something called them to just sit and listen to it. And that I can't even put into words how that actually felt, that I actually helped somebody by me talking. Like my words actually meant something and helped something, and also that I actually made sense, because I was just going on, and then by the end of it I was like, wow, I really, really hope that made sense. And the fact that it did, I just, oh my goodness, that now I'm just like going back and like thinking about it. That was such a cool experience. But now moving into how that turned into me sitting here today in front of a microphone recording the podcast. So one of my dear friends slid up on the story, and he said that that was mad long, because it was 20-minute long Instagram story of me talking. That's crazy. But then he also said that it was a really good podcast. And so I responded with, honestly, at this point, I should just start a podcast. And I was completely joking. I did not mean for it to be taken literally. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't think that starting a podcast was in reach for me. Not that it couldn't be done, but that's not something that I could do. And we're going to talk about things being in reach in a minute. But really quickly, everything is way beyond in reach for you, and I'm gonna wait a minute to talk about that. We're gonna talk about that a little bit at the end. But I was completely joking, and he was like, no, like, you should. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe I should start a podcast. And if I'm being clear, once I said that, I was like, it'll probably be something way farther down. It'll be like years later that I'd start one. I did not think that I'd literally be almost a year later, but literally just months later. I did not think that I would be sitting here recording this podcast. Sitting in front, I'm looking at the microphone right now, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm actually doing this. That is so crazy. But I'm literally so excited. And so he was like, you could call it Pretty in Pink, because of course, one, I love the color pink, and Pretty in Pink is like one of those things I feel like everybody knows. Fun random fact, I actually had a bike when I was a kid, a pink bike that literally said Pretty in Pink on the side of it. So of course it was perfect. And he was like, you can talk about like business things, travel things. And I was like, oh my goodness, wait, that's so good. I was like, maybe one day. But here we are. Today is one day. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. Sorry if I keep breaking in like the middle of me talking, just saying oh my goodness, because this is actually unfathomable. I can't believe this is actually happening. But I'm so excited. So after that, I kind of just like forgot about it for a little bit. And then one day in August, I was just sitting in my room and I literally just had all these ideas flowing to my mind about what would be a good podcast like episode. What would I even talk about? And I had like all these ideas. And so I just pulled up my laptop and I just started writing them down. I literally have a Google Doc full of just podcast ideas. Oh my goodness, you guys, I can't wait to just like show like a picture of what that looks like, because that day I literally wrote down, I think it was like 15 plus podcast episode topics. That's so crazy. I literally just sat down and like just typed them out and like what I wanted to talk about, what I was going to say. Like that was so cool. And I was like, oh my goodness, like maybe I should do this, and maybe I should do this sooner than just a couple years from now, because I figured I'd want to capture life in my 20s, and like of course I want to capture on like social media and things like that, but to actually just hear me speak about life, like life right now. I'm 19 years old. To have that, like a recording of myself talking at 19 and what life was like, and like sharing my life experiences, but also advice, anything that I know at the age of 19, just listening back at that, like even just like months from now, I'll probably like, wow, I know so much more. I want to add to that. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. I know social media, we kind of have like a love-hate relationship with social media. I feel like it's such a good thing, but also can be really bad for us at this very same time. But I think just capturing what life was like and having a recording of yourself talking from when you're 19 years old, I don't know. That's just really, 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 really cool. When I was writing down the topics, I knew that I wanted to talk about life. I wanted to talk about life experiences. I wanted to talk about life in my 20s, what life was like in college, life in friendships, which is also kind of where we go with like the topics of these podcasts, like the titles of them. But we'll get into that in a second after I talk about the name. So I know I wanted to talk about life. And though I love the Pretty in Pink name, I also knew that I wanted to talk about life. And so I figured I'd switch out the Pretty in Pink with Life in Pink. So it's life experiences, life adventures, just anything that goes on in life, but in pink, looking at life through the rose-colored lens. And what that means is basically looking at life with a positive outlook. With anything that you experience, anything good, anything bad, just find the good in every situation. That's what Life in Pink means. And it's actually the translation for one of my favorite songs, which is called Vie En Rose, which is French for Life in Pink. So that's kind of where the title came from. And honestly, having Vie En Rose, a couple of like the little like, if you heard any like the music in the beginning, and I'll probably have it at the end, those are actually some of the music from Vie En Rose. It's one of my favorite songs, specifically the Emily Watts version, but I love the Louis Armstrong version as well. So good. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it. It's such a beautiful song. It's one of my favorites. It's honestly kind of become one of my anthems. I love it. So that's where it came from. Vie En Rose, Life in Pink, looking at life through the rose-colored lens, having a positive outlook on life, finding the good in every situation, finding the lesson in every experience, and just enjoying the adventure. So that's basically what this podcast is about, but also just capturing life in my 20s. I don't know who's listening to this right now or how old you are right now, but I feel like kind of like at this stage in our life, if you're in your 20s, or even if you're like about to enter them, or like you're in like your teen years, about to like enter your adult years, or quote unquote adult years, because I kind of feel like grown-ish, like we're grown, but like not really. I don't know, I just feel like We all go through so many different stages at this time in our life. Everybody's going off and they're doing different things. And though we might be around the same age, all might not actually be doing the same thing, and we all might be in different phases of our life. Everybody talks about that change happens in your 20s and those are the best years of your life, but I don't feel like it's talked about enough how much change actually happens. And yes, I'm recording this as I'm 19, but even just in your college years, I don't think anybody actually ever really explained to me how much was going to change in my college years. I've experienced so much change from freshman year to now. It's actually insane. I honestly feel unrecognizable. And though, yes, I'm the same person and I pretty much look the same, I don't feel the same. I don't think the same. I don't really act the same. A lot of things have changed, and I can't wait to share with you guys and just give advice about the things that have happened and the things that I've experienced, because I feel like the more that we share our experiences, the less we feel alone in them. I feel like we go through so many things and you might think that you're the only one that this is happening to, but the truth is, if it's happening to you, chances are it's happened to somebody else. Sharing our life experiences can, one, help us not feel so alone in the things that you're going through and the changes going on in your life, but also just having advice to go along with the different adventures and experiences that you have in life. So many good things happened, and a lot of times we just sit and we're like, oh, that was a really good thing, and then we just move on to the next thing. But it's really good to just process that good thing, why it was a really good thing, how it made us feel, how we can also take what we learned and then practice it in our everyday life, and even like in the mundane tasks, and just think about those good things. It's really good to sit and process and actually think through the things that have happened to you and just take the lessons out from them, because there's so much lessons to be learned from life. This life is so beautiful and it's filled with so many lessons. You just have to sit and actually think about it and process it and learn those lessons and really, really think about what the lesson is here. There's a lesson in every single situation. Though you might not believe it, I promise you it's true. You just have to think about it. And I don't know, that's one of the things I love to do. So I'd love to sit and just share the things I've learned and like the advice that I have from the life experiences that I've gone through, and I share it with you. Sometimes you just need advice on how to feel better, or you just need advice from somebody that's gone through something similar or going through something similar. But also sometimes it's just good to hear about things going on in other people's lives so you can feel inspired and have hope for all the good things that are going to be coming into your life as well. But anyways, that was really long and I kind of got off from the point, but also kind of stayed on point. That's basically what this podcast is about. Talking about my life experiences and sharing it with you. And I'd love to have people on here, have my friends and my family come on the podcast and talk about like different topics and like share their insight and share like their advice. That's kind of like the goal for this, but we'll leave that for a little later down the line. Maybe it'll be soon. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's what this podcast is basically about. I'm literally so excited to go on this journey with you all. I'd love to share more about me, but I also feel like you'll just learn. We'll get to know each other really well over the course of this podcast, and I'm so excited to share this journey with you all. I'm literally so excited. I can't wait. You had told me a year ago that I would be sitting here today in front of a microphone recording this podcast. I would not have believed you. And honestly, if you had told me in high school that I would be sitting at the exact same desk that I was doing online school from when I felt like I was at my breaking point, that I would be sitting here now using that same desk that I swore I would never sit at again because it just brought back so many bad memories, that I'd be sitting here recording a podcast, she would probably call you a liar, because ain't no way. But here we are in front of a microphone at this desk that I used to hate to look at, recording a podcast. It's so crazy how life changes and how quickly things can change. Just in a year, just in a couple of months, just in a couple of weeks, so many things can happen and so many things can change. And I want to end this podcast episode off by saying that it is all within reach. The thing that you're thinking about doing, the thing that you've always dreamed of doing, it is not so far off. It is not some unattainable dream. In fact, the fact that you keep dreaming about it and you keep thinking about it, it's just evident that you can do it. And I'm not going to sit here and say if you can dream it, you can do it, because that is so cliche. But it is very much so true. It is all within reach for you. Anything that is meant for you will be for you. And we'll talk so much more about that. I have so much more to say about those things. But you are quite literally one decision away from changing everything. You are one decision away from completely altering your life. And I know that sounds dramatic. And if I'm being completely honest, if you had told me a year ago that same sentence, I'd probably think you're probably like the most dramatic person on earth. But if you really, really think about it, it is so true. One decision can actually completely alter and change the course of your life. If I had never posted that 20-minute long rant on my close friends list of talking about July and the things I learned in that month, my friends wouldn't have stood up on my story and said that it helped them. And I wouldn't have been inspired that day to think about starting a podcast. And then I would not be sitting here today in front of a microphone in the corner of my room recording this episode and uploading it. You see how one little thing can actually change everything? And I know people did podcasts, but I never thought that, and I love listening to podcasts. I actually have quite a couple of you that I really love listening to, but I never really thought that, I don't know, this was like in the realm of possibilities for me. You know, I thought life was going to look a whole lot different right now. But I'm so happy with where it is and the things that I've experienced. It's so incredible how life changes so quickly, but also it's so beautiful that so many things are actually within reach. So whatever it is, I don't know what it is that you're thinking about doing, but you're hesitant to do, just do it. Literally go for it. Literally just go for it. Do it. The only person that's really holding you back is you. And it's really all a mind thing. I think the hardest part is starting. And we'll talk about life in the start, because I feel like the hardest part about anything is just actually starting it. An artist's worst fear is a blank canvas. But once you put just like a little ounce of paint, you kind of just like break that barrier. So break the barrier. Go. Do whatever it is that you've been thinking about doing, that you've been wanting to do. I'm so proud of you for one, even dreaming to do it. To even dare to dream is commemorable. And I'm proud of you. And whatever it is that you're thinking about doing, do it. Make that decision. Change your life if you want to. Whatever it is that you're thinking about doing, just go ahead and do it. You're literally one decision away from changing everything. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that was a nice little note to leave this off of. Oh my goodness. I'm closing out my first podcast episode. That's so crazy. But so much more to come. I can't wait to record the next episode. I'm so actually excited. I feel like it's a good start. And I was going to start our second episode with being like life in the start, to kind of like continue talking about like starting the podcast. But I feel like we kind of like covered everything that we needed to cover for that in this one. This episode is probably going to be one of the longest episodes. I'm not quite sure exactly how long it is, because I've been recording it in parts. So it's like in like 5-minute intervals. But I think there's going to be a lot of 5-minute intervals. So this is probably going to be one of the longer episodes. I'm going to try and keep the episodes short, between like 10, 20 minutes. 30 I feel like will be kind of like the max, really, for the most part. This one's just kind of a little bit longer because I did like a little like intro, tell you guys what's going on, what's the podcast about me, and then also the little bit that I just told you, some parting advice. But I want to say thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you listened all the way through, thank you so much. I hope that any of the advice that I shared in the middle of this has touched you in some way. So much more to come. I can't wait for our next episode. I think I will tell you guys what it's about. It's going to be life in the healing process, which I feel like is kind of like the perfect time to like talk about this and like release that episode. It's because I feel like in the summer people, I don't know, usually people kind of go through like their healing process in the summer just because they don't have like school, like other things kind of like to worry about. You have more time to yourself to like really reflect on like the past school year or just like things that have been going on in your life. So I don't know, I feel like life in the healing process will be a good second episode for us. It's going to be a good one. I already know exactly what I talk about, the stories I want to share, the advice I want to share. I already have like the little storyboard written up, so I'm so excited to film that episode. My goodness, I'm so excited. So if you want to hear about that, if you're going through the healing process or you've been through one and you want to hear somebody else's experience, listen to the next episode. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Thank you so much for clicking on this podcast. Follow Life in Pink podcast on Instagram. It's lifeinpink.podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, thank you so much for listening to this audio. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching the video, because it's a video, but also still just listening to the audio. Thank you guys so much for supporting the stream and for supporting this little passion project of mine. I'm so excited to start the journey with you guys, and I love you all. I hope you have a pretty day, and yeah, I will see you in the next episode. God bless you all. Bye-bye.